Welcome to the Shred the Spread podcast, College Football National Championship Special Edition. I'm your host, Jared. If you're new to the Shred the Spread podcast, thanks for tuning in. And as always, if you're returning, thanks for coming back. I'm your host, Jared. And today we have a solo episode just to break down the College Football National Championship. We're going to be talking about some of my sides that I like, some player props, a little bit of information that might help you guys make some decisions when you're placing your bets for this game. Our odds are provided by FanDuel, but obviously do your due diligence and shop elsewhere to find the best lines. So currently, as we sit here right now, TCU are 13.5-point underdogs, which obviously means Georgia is 13.5-point favorites. They're both juiced at minus 110, so about 50-50. The total for this game currently stands at 63.5 points. And I tell you what, I really think this is a spot where Georgia explodes on TCU. I think this isn't necessarily a high-scoring game, but I think that Georgia does cover. I think TCU gets exposed. The last time we saw Georgia face a defense that ran a 3-3-5 scheme was when they played against Mississippi State, and Georgia won that game, I think, along the lines of 45-19. Stetson Bennett really threaded the needle against that defense. They made really good plays on offense. Georgia really shut Mississippi State down. So I really think this is a really good spot for Georgia against TCU tonight. So I will be on Georgia minus 13.5. I'll also be playing the under. I think I lean the under a little bit more than the spread because I do obviously think TCU has that fourth quarter backdoor potential. Obviously, neither of these teams are ever going to get up because this is a national championship. So laying down against the fight really has no means for whatsoever. A lot of these players also on TCU, they're trying to play for their name. I think the difference is Georgia probably has like 25 NFL-bound players on the roster. TCU may only have like 4 to 5 NFL players that, scouts see as NFL-ready material. So a lot of these kids on TCU are definitely going to be playing, foot on the gas, trying to make a name for themselves with everybody watching, bright lights. I think a few player props are going to go over, some of my favorite. I do like Stetson Bennett over 13.5 rushing yards. This is right on the hook for me because I have him listed about 14 to 15 of where my cutoff is. Stetson Bennett, we saw against Mississippi State, took off a few times, and he got, I believe, 14 to 15 rushing yards in that game. He also scored a touchdown, so I also like Stetson Bennett anytime touchdown plus 130. It's really good value. And, in a dogfight championship game on the line, Stetson Bennett is obviously going to put his body on the line, make some plays. We do see him take off here and there when there's an opportunity. So Stetson Bennett plus 130 anytime touchdown, and I also like his over on the rushing yards. One guy that I will be sprinkling anytime touchdown, it's a little juicy, but Brock Bowers. He's going to run through the middle of that TCU defense. 3-3-5 is a little bit more spread out, so he's just going to have single coverage in the middle unless the high safety picks up. I do believe Brock Bowers gets in once, possibly twice, depending on what your line is for 2+ touchdowns. Could be a good sprinkle. I'm also going to sprinkle first touchdown Brock Bowers. I think they like to go to him early. Generally, he's his favorite target to start the game. He's a safety blanket, going to be in the middle of the field for Stetson Bennett. So I see him looking over the middle of the field for Brock Bowers quite often. So Brock Bowers, anytime touchdown, also going to sprinkle him first touchdown. And then we're also getting some really good value on Max Duggan, who a lot of design quarterback runs. We've seen him get into the end zone several games. He's a guy who's going to use his legs. He's going to put his body on the line. This guy plays with his heart. So he's going to do whatever he can to put his team in a position to win. He's been a pretty effective runner for TCU. He's always on the stat sheet for rushing. He gets into the end zone pretty often. So we're getting really good value there. I think that's also plus money. I think FanDuel has him at plus 110. I think another kind of cheeky prop that I'm going to go to are the field goal unders, specifically TCU. If you can find a TCU under 1.5 or under 2 field goal props, I think that's really, really good to look at just because I think TCU has to win this game by keeping up with Georgia. They have to take advantage of their red zone opportunities. I don't think settling for field goal is going to beat this Georgia team. So I do think that TCU is going to go for it a lot on fourth down. And we know they're one of the most aggressive teams in college football. They go for it on fourth down very often, and they generally have a high success rate. So it's going to be one thing. It's kind of like their bread and butter, fourth and short. Max Duggan likes to make plays with his legs, or they look over the middle for a quick pass. But I do like the under 1.5 field goals on TCU. But like I said, this game, I don't think it's going to be extremely high scoring, but I do think Georgia covers. I think my favorite plays that we went over was the under 63.5. I'll probably be playing 2 units on that. I'll probably place 1 unit on Georgia minus 13.5 for the full game, and then I'll place 1 unit on Georgia minus 7. If you can find a double result at plus, I think FanDuel had a double result for Georgia to win the first half, Georgia win the second half. I think I saw it was like plus 160, so that also could be worth a half unit sprinkle. But there's a lot of player props went over. Stetson Bennett over rushing, Stetson Bennett touchdown, Brock Bowers anytime touchdown, the first touchdown, Max Duggan really good value anytime touchdown. There's a lot of good spots to look at for this game. There's going to be so many bets deployed. My best option is to go with game scripts. So if you think there's going to be a lot of points, look for a lot of overs. If you think this game is really low scoring and tight, maybe look for some unders. You can find some good value in these unders. A lot of these props are juiced to the overs. So if you find some spots where you like and you get some good value on the under, it's definitely worth taking a shot at. But myself, I will be on Georgia. I think the Dogs get it done. I think they're just more NFL ready. I think this team's well all around. I think they're better coached. And I think Ohio State was the best matchup possible for Georgia. They were the one team that I honestly thought was going to have the best chance to take them down. And we saw TCU honestly probably should have lost due to Michigan, turning the ball over. And, they didn't get into the end zone on that fumble, which resulted in like a touchback or a turnover, whatever it was. But Michigan kind of got robbed of 2 touchdowns. So I think Michigan definitely should have won that game. I think TCU's, they've been lucky. So they're very talented. Max Duggan has been playing at an exceptional level, so I can't discredit him at all. But I think Georgia is the way better team. And I think this is a spot where TCU kind of gets exposed. I did see a prop, which kind of made me feel a little bit better. I think there's a prop for TCU to have 4 straight scoreless drives, and it was juiced to like minus 200. And I think that's insane. I think the books are right on the side of Georgia. We've seen this line go back and forth. Luckily this morning, I got Georgia minus 13, but right now I don't want to give you guys false lines because on FanDuel they're listed at minus 13.5. But that's going to do it for this episode. If you enjoyed this episode, please do us a huge favor and leave a rate on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. You can also follow us on Twitter at @ShredTheSpread_. You can follow us on TikTok at ShredTheSpread. Be on the lookout for future episodes for NHL Quick Picks, NBA Quick Picks, and then for those of you who still tune in to our NFL podcast episodes, those will be once a week until football is concluded. We're coming to the end of the football season for both college and NFLs. So that will do it for now. This has been the college football special on the Shred the Spread podcast. Until next time, see ya.